My name is Sable Merrick, 32 years old. They arrived just before sundown, the sky over Reno turning that coppery pink that makes even strip malls look nostalgic. Mom wheeled in a suitcase the size of a small closet and said, "This setup doesn't make sense," before she'd even hugged me, already opening my cabinets and rearranging my spices into her version of sanity. Dad headed straight for the couch like it had been assigned to him at birth, thumb stabbing the TV remote until sports swallowed the room. The wheels of their luggage had left faint black crescents on the hardwood, bruises on my careful life. "We lost the house," Mom said, her voice steady, almost serene. "Bad investments. It's complicated." She didn't meet my eyes. "Complicated how?" I asked, still holding the door open as if the night might pull them back. "What kind of investments? Do you have the paperwork?" Dad kept his gaze locked on the game. "Temporary," he muttered. "We'll be out as soon as we get back on our feet." Temporary, with 2 stuffed suitcases and the calm of people who'd already decided where the coffee mugs should live. Mom relocated my plates to a higher shelf and set my favorite mug in the back, like she was demoting it. "You're such a good daughter," she added, a ribbon of praise tied around an empty box. "Tara's doing fine, by the way. Casual as weather." My chest tightened. Why bring up Tara now? Mom shrugged, pulled down my copper pans, and began ranking them by size like a judge at a pageant. "She's busy. You know how it is." I watched them move around my home with the unbothered choreography of familiarity. Dad's socks were already off. Mom slid my salt next to my sugar, like sweetness was something you could season into people. I opened my mouth to ask again, show me the bank statements, the letters, the foreclosure notices, but the look she gave me said, "Don't start." I didn't. I retreated to my bedroom, closed the door, and leaned against it until my heartbeat slowed. The apartment was quiet in that way where you can still hear the TV through walls, a commentary on some game I didn't care about. I pulled out my phone and texted Robert Klein, college friend turned lawyer with an appetite for county databases. "Sable, can you check my parents' property records? They say they lost their house." Robert, "On it. Might take a day. I'll pull the transfer history too." I stared at the screen until the bubbles stopped pulsing, then messaged Tara, straight to voicemail. Figures. When I came back out, Mom had started on my bookshelves, stacking my novels with the spines turned inward like she wanted a minimalist amnesia. "This place could use some order," she said, tugging at my curtains. "These are too dark." "Stop touching my things," I said before I could swallow it. She paused, head tilted, smile neat and sharp. "I'm helping, sweetheart." Dad's phone buzzed. He walked to the balcony, voice low. "No, she's fine with it. Yeah, the plan should work." He turned and saw me watching. "Just a buddy," he said, returning to the couch. "We're thinking of fixing your railings. A little loose." "For what?" I asked. "Comfort," he said, like that answered any question worth asking. A knock at the door saved me from saying something I'd regret. Edward Blake, my neighbor with a gentle face and a garden that could survive a drought, stood in the hall. "Everything all right, Sable?" I heard voices. "We're fine," Mom sang from the kitchen before I could answer. "Family visit." Edward's eyes flicked to mine. I gave him a tiny nod. "Later." He nodded back, the kind of understanding that doesn't need words, and left. I tried again. "What happened exactly? What did you invest in? Can we call the bank?" Mom waved a hand, already tossing my half-empty cereal box into the trash. "You worry too much." Dad didn't look away from the TV. "Give us time, Sable." Time. Like I hadn't spent years building every minute of this life. I checked my phone. Nothing from Robert. A text from Linda, my coworker and friend. Saw Tara's IG. New house. South Reno. I swallowed the flicker of nausea. New house. Tara, working part-time at a coffee shop, didn't buy a sleek modern with a backyard and a pool that glowed like a promise. Not alone. I locked myself in the bathroom and scrolled through Tara's feed. There it was. Glass railings, wide hallway, bright captions. Living the dream. The date stamp made my stomach drop. Last week. A week before Mom and Dad rolled their suitcases into my doorway with a tragedy that didn't sweat. I grabbed a towel, pressed it to my face, breathed into the cotton. When I came back out, Mom had my curtains down entirely, fabric pooled on the floor like shed skin. "We'll replace these," she said, as if she'd been elected. "Mom," I said carefully, "where are you sleeping tonight?" She didn't look up. "Guest room," she said, like it belonged to her. I looked at Dad. And how long? He finally turned. Until things settle. I held his stare, searching for a crack. There was only a reflection of the television. My phone buzzed again. Robert. Found something weird about a recent sale. Need to confirm. Call you tomorrow. Weird. Not lost. Not foreclosed. Something else. I walked to the kitchen and turned my mug back around so the handle faced me. I have work early, I said. I need sleep. Mom brushed my arm as she passed. You'll feel better in the morning, she said. The way you soothe a child from a nightmare. Everything will make sense. Behind her, Dad cupped his hand near the balcony door and spoke into his phone again. Voice low, 4 words I wasn't supposed to hear. No issues. She's compliant. Something cold slid under my skin. I carried my phone to bed and lay there listening to the sounds I used to find comforting. The hum of the fridge, the elevator cables whispering. But the apartment had shifted. Their bags sat by the door like anchors. Their voices threaded through the walls like wires. I typed a final message to Robert I didn't send. What if they didn't lose anything at all? And instead texted myself, a note with no audience. If they lie, end it fast. At 2 a.m., I woke to the scrape of furniture on wood, my bookcase, inching along the wall like it had decided it wanted a better view. I stared at the ceiling and counted my breaths. On the other side of it, Mom hummed a tune I couldn't place, the kind that sounds cheerful until you hear the insistence in it. In the morning, the sun would turn my windows gold and make everything look softer than it was. For now, the room felt like a stage set in the dark. In the wings, something waited, the shape of a story that didn't want me to see it yet. The next morning, the smell of bacon drifted down the hallway before I even opened my eyes. For a second, my body forgot the tension, thinking I was back in childhood. Saturday breakfast, laughter, the soft hiss of coffee on the stove. But when I stepped into the kitchen, Mom was standing at my counter in my robe, flipping bacon in my pan, humming that same eerie tune from the night before. Morning, sweetheart, she said brightly. I thought I'd make breakfast. Your fridge was practically empty. Don't you eat properly? I bit back the words forming in my throat. I eat fine. You didn't have to cook. Nonsense, she said, sliding bacon onto a plate. Family takes care of each other. Dad was already at the table, coffee in hand, phone in the other. You need new blinds, he said, squinting toward the window. We'll replace them this week. You'll thank me later. That we landed heavy. I poured myself coffee, watching them move around the kitchen like homeowners instead of guests. Every drawer they opened felt like a trespass. So, I said, keeping my voice calm, what's the plan for today? Talking to the bank? Looking at apartments? Mom waved a spatula like a conductor dismissing an off-key violin. Stop worrying. We need to catch our breath first. Maybe a few weeks. A few weeks. My jaw clenched. You said temporary. Temporary can mean different things, she said cheerfully. Dad grunted. Besides, Tara might need help settling her new place. Maybe once that's done, we'll see. The coffee burned down my throat. Tara's new place? Mom froze mid-flip. Oh, she said lightly. Did I not mention? She's renting a house in South Reno. Lovely area. Got a pool. Renting? I asked slowly. She smiled too quickly. Well, maybe buying soon. You know Tara, always ambitious. My phone buzzed on the counter, a message from Robert. Got the documents. Call when you can talk privately. Excuse me, I said, stepping into my bedroom and shutting the door. He picked up on the first ring. Sable, you sitting down? Do I need to be? He exhaled. Your parents didn't lose their house. They sold it 2 weeks ago for $860,000. Clean deal. No bank repossession, no foreclosure. And, here's the kicker, they transferred the money directly into your sister's name. The silence stretched. All of it? I asked finally. Every penny. Used as down payment for a house in South Reno. Probably the one in those Instagram pictures you mentioned. I pressed a hand to my forehead. So they didn't lose anything. They just gave it to her. Exactly. You've been played, Sable. They're not broke. They're displaced by choice. Why? That's what you need to find out. After the call, I sat there, heart thudding. The betrayal was sharp, but the clarity, the understanding, hurt worse. All those calm smiles, the way they'd settled in like they were reclaiming something. They'd already made peace with lying to me. I needed a second opinion, someone who didn't sugarcoat. I texted Aunt Sylvia, the one family member who'd never been afraid to tell the truth. Can we meet? It's about Mom and Dad. She replied instantly, come by the cafe near my place. Noon. The air outside felt different when I left. Lighter, but charged, like the pause before a summer storm. Sylvia's cafe smelled like espresso and honesty. She sat by the window, her reading glasses low on her nose. "You look like hell, sweetheart," she said. "Sit. Tell me everything." I did. Every detail, from the bags at the door to Robert's call. She didn't interrupt, just stirred her coffee slowly. When I finished, she sighed. "I was afraid of this," she said. "Tara's gotten herself mixed up with that Danielle Ford girl again." "Who?" "Danielle. You met her once. Too much perfume, too much talk. She's been whispering in Tara's ear about opening some trendy restaurant/mini casino in Midtown. She convinced your parents it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Said they'd all retire together." I blinked. "So they sold their house to bankroll it?" Sylvia nodded grimly. "Every cent. Danielle even bragged about it at a fundraiser last month. Your parents said it was an investment for the family." The family meaning Tara. "Exactly. They didn't tell you because they knew you'd call it what it is, a con." I leaned back in my chair, the cafe spinning slightly. "My sister's a barista, Sylvia. She can't run a casino." "She can't even balance her own checkbook," Sylvia said dryly. "But your parents always believed she was special. You're the stable one, Sable, the one who lands on her feet. They think you'll always be fine." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "So, I'm the safety net." "You've been the safety net your whole life. They just stopped asking permission." Sylvia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Listen, sweetheart. They're not victims. They're participants. Be careful. They'll make you feel guilty before you can blink." Her warning followed me home like a shadow. When I unlocked my door, Mom was standing on a chair, taking down my artwork. My framed photo of the lake. My watercolor print. "What are you doing?" I asked. She smiled, dusting the frame. "Rearranging. These are too small for the wall. We'll get something modern. Maybe from Tara's decorator." I stared. "Tara's decorator?" "She's redecorating her new house. Danielle helped pick things out." Something inside me cracked. "Stop touching my walls," I said. My voice came out low, unfamiliar. She turned, eyebrows arched. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Put everything back." Her smile faltered, replaced by something colder. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just a picture." Dad stepped out from the hallway, wiping his hands on a rag. "Your balcony railing's crooked. I'm thinking we could—" "Stop!" I snapped, "both of you." They froze, exchanging a look I knew too well. The silent agreement that I was being difficult. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the email from Robert, and held it up. "I know the truth," I said. "You didn't lose your house. You sold it. Every dollar went to Tara's house. You lied to me." Mom's face twitched, a tiny muscle beneath her eye. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't raise your voice to your mother." "Then tell me why you lied," I said. "Why move in here? Why pretend?" Mom's voice cracked like a whip. "Because we're family, and you owe us." "Owe you?" I repeated, stunned. "For what? For lying to me? For treating me like a spare part?" Her smile snapped into something sharp. "You wouldn't understand. You've always been selfish." I felt the heat rise in my chest, the pulse in my ears. "No," I said quietly. "I've just stopped volunteering for your chaos." She stepped closer, eyes flashing. "Don't talk to me like that, Sable." And then she slapped me. The sound echoed, a sharp punctuation in the stillness. My cheek stung, but the pain came second to the disbelief. I stared at her, hand pressed to my face. Dad said something low, maybe my name, but I couldn't hear it over the rushing in my ears. Then, a knock. Edward, my neighbor, again. "Everything all right in there?" I forced my voice steady. "Everything's fine, Mr. Blake." He lingered a second, then left. I turned back to my parents, my voice steady now. "Get your things. You're leaving tomorrow morning." Mom laughed, brittle, disbelieving. "You're kicking us out?" "Yes. You wouldn't." "I just did." Her eyes narrowed to slits. "You'll regret this, Sable. We're your family." I met her gaze. Then maybe family needs to learn what no means. I turned, walked down the hall, and locked my bedroom door. Through the wood, I could still hear her muttering, that same low hum threaded now with fury. In the silence that followed, I texted Robert. "If they refuse to leave, what are my options?" He replied instantly, "Plenty. We'll handle it legally. Stay calm." I put the phone down, touched my burning cheek, and whispered into the dark, "No more." For the first time that night, the words sounded like power. By morning, the apartment smelled like burnt toast and tension. I woke to the sound of drawers opening, bags zipping, low muttering. For a moment, I thought maybe they were actually packing, but when I stepped into the living room, my stomach dropped. Mom wasn't leaving. She was rearranging again. My coffee table had been dragged 6 inches toward the window. My throw pillows, gone. my framed photo of the lake replaced with a floral print I'd never seen before. Dad sat on the couch, arms crossed, watching the news. Your mother thought the room needed light, he said flatly. Where are my things? I asked. Mom didn't turn around. In the hall closet, we're making the space more functional. You're making my apartment look like a motel, I snapped. She whirled, eyes flashing. Watch your tone. We raised you better than this. I almost laughed. Raised me? They'd barely watched me. I drew a breath, forcing calm into my voice. You have 30 minutes to pack and leave. Dad frowned. You're serious? I nodded. Completely. Mom's lip curled. You're kicking your own parents out? You lied to me, I said quietly. You gave everything to Tara, moved in here, and pretended to be broke. That's not family. That's manipulation. She stared at me for a long moment and then smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind she wore when she'd already decided she'd win. We're not leaving, she said simply. You can't make us. My pulse thundered in my ears. Want to bet? When I picked up my phone, Dad shot to his feet. Sable, don't you dare. I dialed anyway. Hello, 911? I need assistance removing unauthorized occupants from my residence. Mom gasped like I'd pulled a weapon. You're calling the police on us? I didn't answer. I gave my address. The dispatcher told me officers were on their way. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. 2 officers, one tall, one short, both looking like they'd seen 1,000 family meltdowns before. The taller one, Officer Carter, asked calmly, Ma'am, can you tell us what's happening? They're my parents, I said, showing him my lease. They said they lost their home, asked to stay temporarily. I just learned they sold it and gave the money to my sister. I've asked them to leave. They refuse. Mom burst into tears on cue. We're her parents. We have nowhere else to go. Dad's voice rose. She's heartless, officer. We sacrificed everything for her. Officer Carter didn't blink. Sir, if she's the tenant of record and wants you to leave, you have to comply. The other officer, Ruiz, checked my paperwork and nodded. Everything's valid. You'll need to gather your belongings and go. Mom's tears stopped mid-sob. This is cruelty, she hissed. It's a boundary, I said. She grabbed random things, my towels, my set of plates, a throw blanket. I stepped forward. Those aren't yours. Ruiz's voice was firm. Ma'am, only take your property. Mom glared at her but put the items back one by one, muttering under her breath. Dad packed in silence, his face a hard red mask. When he finished, he looked at me and said evenly, You're no daughter of mine. The words landed like stones, but they didn't crush me this time. They just hit the floor and stayed there. I walked them to the door. Mom turned once more, voice trembling. You're breaking our family apart. No, I said. You did that when you lied to me. The officers escorted them out. The hallway swallowed their voices, and the elevator doors closed with a hollow clang. For a moment, there was only silence. No humming, no TV, no rearranging. Just air. I sank onto the couch and let the quiet soak in. The apartment looked half empty, but it was mine again. Still, my hands shook. I called Robert, voice unsteady. They're gone. He was silent for a beat. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel like I didn't? Because you're human, he said simply. Boundaries always feel like cruelty to the people who've benefited from your lack of them. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. What happens if they start spreading stories? I'll handle it, he said. You rest. But resting wasn't easy. That night, every sound felt like them. Footsteps that weren't there, a shadow moving where it shouldn't. I kept expecting the knock to come again. It didn't. 3 days later, the knock did come, but it wasn't them. It was Sylvia, holding 2 coffees. I heard, she said quietly. Half the family group chat's on fire. Let it burn. She smiled faintly. Good girl. We sat at my table, the same one Mom had eaten at 3 mornings ago, lecturing me about gratitude. Sylvia took a sip of coffee and set it down. You've got to be ready for what's next. People like Pamela don't lose gracefully. She was right. The calm wouldn't last. That evening, I got the first text from Linda. Hey, weird question. Did you really kick your parents out? They're posting about it on a local group. My blood ran cold. Posting? I opened Facebook. There it was, a long, dramatic post from my mother. A photo of her crying, the caption reading, Our daughter turned us away after we lost everything. We're homeless now, sleeping in our car. Please pray for us. Hundreds of comments poured in. Sympathy, outrage, strangers calling me ungrateful, heartless. Dad had reposted it with a comment. She'll regret this someday. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Within an hour, the story was everywhere in our little corner of Reno. At the grocery store the next day, I could feel eyes on me. One cashier whispered, "That's her." My phone buzzed again. Robert. "Saw the posts?" he asked. "Yes." "Then it's time to hit back." He met me at my apartment that afternoon with his laptop and a folder. Inside were screenshots, my lease, timestamps, even the police report from the night they were removed. "We'll send them a cease and desist," he said. "If they keep this up, we sue for defamation." "Against my parents?" I whispered. He met my eyes. "Against two adults defaming you online, family or not." He drafted the letter, cool and precise. When I signed it, my hand didn't shake. The next morning, the posts were gone. A week later, a short message appeared on the same community board. "We misspoke about our daughter's situation. It was a misunderstanding. We asked for privacy. No apology, just retreat." But it was enough. Sylvia texted, "You won, kid." I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I just felt free. That night, I made dinner for one, opened the curtains wide, and let the Nevada sunset spill across the room. It painted everything gold, proof that peace doesn't need witnesses to be real. I sat on the couch, the same spot Dad used to claim, and whispered to the empty air, "This is mine now." Days passed quietly, but the quiet wasn't peace. It was the kind that comes after an earthquake, when you're waiting to see what's still standing. I tried to focus on work, drowning myself in spreadsheets and coffee, but everywhere I went, I felt the echo of my parents' story chasing me. The grocery cashier who stopped smiling halfway through scanning my items, the coworker who hesitated before asking about my weekend, the silence that followed when I walked into the break room. Their online lies had done their job. When my phone lit up with Aunt Sylvia's name one afternoon, I almost didn't answer. "Sable," she said, "you'd better sit down." I did. "Your parents showed up at Tara's place." I rubbed my temple. "Of course they did." "She let them in," Sylvia continued. "For 3 days. Then she kicked them out. Apparently they were fighting nonstop. Money, credit cards, everything. Tara told them she wasn't their retirement plan." A bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. "Guess she learned that line from me." "Don't gloat yet," Sylvia warned. "It gets worse." The restaurant scheme collapsed. Danielle burned through half the funds before even signing a lease. No permits, no investors, just promises. The bank's about to seize Tara's house. My pulse thudded in my ears. "You're telling me all $860,000 are gone?" "Every cent." I leaned back in my chair, staring at nothing. A house gone, a business that never existed, and two parents who'd bet their future on a daughter who couldn't keep a part-time job. "What are they going to do?" I asked finally. Sylvia hesitated. "They're staying in a motel on the edge of town. I think they might lose that soon, too." I closed my eyes. "I told them this would happen." "I know." After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time, the cursor blinking on my computer screen like a metronome for my thoughts. I should have felt vindicated, but the only thing I felt was hollow. That night, I scrolled through Tara's social media. The photos of her new house had vanished, replaced by blurry mirror selfies and vague captions about fake people. Danielle was nowhere to be seen. In the comments, someone asked if the restaurant was still opening. Tara replied with a single emoji, a broken heart. I locked my phone and stared at the dark window. Their chaos had finally turned inward, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like inheritance, the same dysfunction passed down, repackaged. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number, a text. "Ms. Merrick, this is Danielle Ford. I'd like to talk. There's a way we can all come out ahead." I stared at it, half laughing, half exhausted. Of course Danielle would still be scheming. I typed back one word. "No." The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the floor beside my window. The city stretched below, full of lives not orbiting my family's chaos. I tried to imagine what that would feel like, living without the next crisis lurking behind the phone's buzz. But the past wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I received a call from Robert. "Got something weird," he said. "A change of address form was filed under your parents' names, redirecting their mail here. It was submitted the week they moved in." My stomach dropped. "What?" "They withdrew it after the police report, but if it had gone through, they could have claimed partial residency. Makes eviction a messier process. They were planning ahead." I pressed my palm to my forehead, feeling dizzy. "So the plan all along was to stay." "Looks that way. You did the right thing calling us when you did." "Robert," I said quietly, "what kind of parents plan a takeover of their own kid's apartment?" He didn't answer. Some questions don't have answers you want to hear. That night, I went for a drive through the city. Past Tara's street, the big glass house was dark now, bank property, stenciled across the fence. I didn't stop. Instead, I turned toward the motel Sylvia had mentioned. I spotted their car easily. The dented sedan, license plate I knew by heart. The curtains in their room were drawn, but a sliver of light leaked through. I sat in my car, engine idling, watching. The part of me that still wanted to fix things whispered, "Go knock, bring food, make peace." But another voice, older, steadier, said they chose this road. You already gave them an exit once. I drove away without honking, without calling. Back home, I transferred a few $100s anonymously to Sylvia's account. For emergencies only, I texted her. If they run out of options, don't tell them it's me. She replied a minute later, "You sure?" "I'm sure." It wasn't forgiveness, it was closure, the last thread tied off. Days later, I woke up to sunlight instead of stress. My phone was silent, my apartment still. In the kitchen, I brewed coffee and opened the curtains. The sky was clear, the city awake. When the knock came, I flinched. But it was only Edward, my neighbor, holding a small pot of lavender. "Thought you could use something new to grow," he said with a smile. I smiled back. "Thank you. I'll take good care of it." "You seem lighter," he said gently. "I am," I told him, for the first time in a long while. After he left, I set the lavender on the windowsill, its scent filling the air. I looked around my apartment. Quiet, sunlit, completely mine. Then I sat at my desk, opened a blank document, and began to type. Family is supposed to protect you, but sometimes protecting yourself means becoming the stranger in your own story. I paused, fingers hovering above the keyboard. Outside, the light touched everything that had survived, the furniture, the walls, me. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel like waiting. It felt like peace. A week later, the quiet began to feel real. No messages, no rumors, no knocks, just life. I woke up early on Sunday, sunlight slipping between my new cream curtains. The lavender Edward had given me was thriving on the sill, its purple blooms tilting toward the light. I brewed coffee, poured it into the mug Mom used to hide at the back of my cabinet, and took it to the balcony. For the first time, the view didn't feel like something I had to earn. It just was. Down below, the street hummed awake. Dog walkers, engines starting, a kid riding a scooter. Ordinary life. I'd spent so many years in fight or flight mode that ordinary felt like luxury. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My first instinct was to let it ring out, but curiosity tugged. I answered. "Hello?" A pause, then, "Sable?" It was Tara. My body went cold. "What do you want?" Her voice wavered. "I'm not calling to fight. I needed to talk to you before I leave town." "Leave town?" "They're closing on the house tomorrow. I can't stay in Reno. Danielle's gone, moved to California, probably running another con. Mom and Dad are..." She trailed off. "You don't want to know." I stayed quiet. "I know what they did," Tara continued softly. "I didn't think they'd give me everything. I thought it was just an investment, something we'd all share." "An investment?" I repeated. "You watched them sell their home, move into mine, and you thought that was just business?" "I made mistakes," she said quickly. "I was stupid, but I didn't know they lied to you." "That's the thing, Tara. You never want to know. Not as long as someone else pays the price." There was a long silence. Then she said, "You sound just like Mom when you're angry." I exhaled slowly. "No, Mom blames people. I hold them accountable." She didn't respond to that. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. "I didn't call to ask for money. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Something inside me softened, but only a little. "If that's true," I said quietly, "then learn from it. Don't drag them down any further. They'll always need a rescuer. Don't let it be you." "I won't," she whispered. "Goodbye, Sable." The call ended. I set the phone down and stared at the lavender on the windowsill. It looked fragile but certain, the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself. Later that afternoon, Robert stopped by with paperwork. "Just closing the loop," he said, placing a folder on my table. "The defamation case, officially dropped. They signed the retraction under legal advisement. They won't bother you again." "Good," I said, then hesitated. "Can you check something for me? The motel they're at, did they pay up?" He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I sent money through Sylvia, anonymously. I just want to make sure it got there." Robert looked at me for a long moment. "You still care?" I shrugged. "Caring doesn't mean returning to the fire." He smiled faintly. "You're learning fast." After he left, I opened the folder, scanning the papers. It was all there, my proof, my piece, signed in black ink. That night, I took the papers to the balcony. The air was cool, the city humming beneath me. One by one, I fed the copies into a small metal tray and lit a match. The pages curled and blackened, the ashes twisting upward like smoke signals to a past I no longer needed. From inside, my phone buzzed, a text from Linda. Promotion went through. Drinks tomorrow? I smiled. For once, tomorrow sounded simple. Before going inside, I looked up at the sky. The stars were faint through the city glow, but they were there, steady and unbothered. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably arguing in circles, trying to rebuild a story where they were still the victims. Maybe they'd always need that version of events. But not me. I locked the balcony door, turned off the lights, and let the lavender scent fill the room. In the dark, I thought of something Sylvia once said over coffee. Peace isn't the reward, it's the work you do after you stop explaining yourself. She'd been right. I didn't owe them explanations anymore. Just the quiet. Just this.